Welcome to a new episode of the Creative Industry Insight podcast. I'm your host, Bobby. Today, we welcome editor Andres Landau, who joins us to talk about their work on Nuisance Bear. Andreas will talk us through how he went about editing the relationship between the polar bears and humans in Churchill, Manitoba. Please be warned there are heavy spoilers in this episode. Now let's jump into the conversation with Andreas. Hi Andreas, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about a documentary called Nuisance Bear, which has just had its release at Sundance. How have you found the reception to the film?
Nuisance Bear reception was incredible. It was a dream come true, Robert. It was 400 seater at the library at the last Sundance edition in Park City, and it was very warm. It was a lot of people reacting to spots in the film that by being in an edit suite, you would never imagine that they could like cheer and laugh at certain spots in the film. It was very emotional. It was very, very emotional. Yeah, that was the first one out of 5 screenings that we had there.
Oh wow, five. I don't know how a feeling would feel like knowing that you have 400 people. It was like the first time that so many people were about to watch what you've been working on for a number of years. And then having certain moments just hit. There must be moments where you've watched the documentary so many times where you think audiences will connect to this part. I think one part, especially, is during the narration where you find out the narrator's son passed away from a polar bear attack, trying to protect his family. I think that's probably one moment that you probably knew that would hit hard, but there must be other moments in there where I can imagine like the polar bear jail hitting in a certain way as well, or like how it feels like you're watching a polar bear just chill and hang out and walk around, trying to find some food.
It was amazing because we had the opportunity to screen on an extra screening at the Echoes for almost 1,300 people on the last Saturday, which is the extra screening that is given to the grand jury prize winners. And we're lucky enough to have that one. And if I thought the weekend before that those 400 people was special, let me tell you, having the experience of sitting through that final screening, it was the cherry on top of it all. And yeah, I mean, those are two special moments that you brought up of the film that we spend a lot of time crafting and really try to pull the emotion out of those moments. And yeah, by seeing the people like reshuffle their bodies into their seats, or like come closer to their partner next to them, or react in a certain way, but especially really being there with the Gabriela and Jack, the co-directors of the film, and Mike Code, one of the producers, and experience that. It was a dream come true. It was beautiful to experience and to see and to be a part of.
Basically, it just tops it up. So whatever you felt before is like now let's just times it by three because we've got so many more people. And I think as well, like when you're in that sort of world of that hub where people are talking about films and sort of try and imagine by that point it's like it's a hot ticket, so everybody's trying to get there, everybody's trying to make the effort to sort of squeeze through, pushing old ladies out of the queue and trying to get their front way and get there. But again, like incredible. And I wonder what you must feel like the buzz afterwards, like how you must feel after that and thinking like how is this like gonna ever get topped and how am I gonna like come down from this as well?
I don't know. To be honest, this is like today is Thursday. It's been 3 days that we came back from out there, and we keep talking with our group every day, and try to pinch ourselves, to realize what just happened. But again, you spend so much time to try to craft something very meaningful, especially for the community in Churchill and Arviat, and for the Gibbons family. And even before we went out there and to the festival, we were able to screen the film for them. And I feel like that was the moment where like this huge weight got lifted out of our shoulders, and the fact that they really appreciated what we crafted, and the respect, and that Mike's voice will live forever. And we heard from them how he was really excited about participating in this film, and how proud he was. And really in the process of editing, and in the post-production kind of phase of it, we, by digging through the interviews, we really understood a lot of his emotions, and a lot of the way that he felt by telling his story, the need that he had, talking about his personal trauma, and the trauma that his family went through, and really navigating that, and having the trust in Jack and Gabriela and myself. I felt the responsibility too, and the way that we were able to craft the film and his story. And yeah, it was a very emotional journey. So yeah, I hope that the film can find their audiences, moving forward, and hopefully we can have some theatrical run, or some kind of like this distribution that it can be like go beyond just film festival circuit, for people to really understand these perspectives, and that sometimes are told in a different way, or a different approach. And that's what we really try, right, to kind of bend the form a little bit.
And I think as well, like with documentaries, like maybe this is a bit unfair to say, but in a way that like I feel like documentaries have kind of been overtaken by a lot of true crime stuff, and what's the other word, like a sort of a little bit more grisly parts of history, so that people are kind of getting an interest in. But I think now when you see something like this, where it's not just about sort of wildlife, but people's lives. It's like this is such a different aspect of what people's lives are like, and how they live, what it means to them. Like in a way, the way that you've edited it and constructed it as well, it's like you feel for the polar bear. At one point, you kind of want to go and give it a hug, but you know that they are like one of the most fiercest creatures on the planet. And it's like that's I can't believe in the edit that's how you manage to give like sympathy for these animals, because there's a reason why they're coming to land, because the polar ice caps are melting. They're looking for food. They get slightly lost as well from their family, and you get that sympathy, and you have people sort of watching them and seeing them in life, and you think, oh, just leave the poor guy alone, or poor bear alone, should I say?
Yeah, no, totally. And we really analyzed, and I educated myself in observing these creatures for such a long time. I was born in Argentina. I spent a lot of years in Canada too, and I'm not an expert. I grew up in a city, but every documentary, every film that I'm a part of, I try to really educate myself, and I watch a lot of footage, and I consulted with the people out there, and I was able to really try to understand them, or try to pull that emotion from the bears as much as I could. And by, of course, being inspired by the beautiful cinematography from everybody who was behind the lens, and try to pull the emotion of those bears. You saw in those sequences when the bear is on the stretcher, and Gabriela goes with a very short lens right beside the bear, and watching that raw material really impacted me. It's like I was looking straight into the lens, straight here, straight into my eyes, and that's when we really started to think about like kind of like that POV aspect of the bear in the film, and try to like understand how he would navigate all this, his journey, and the encounters with the humans, and everything that they've been doing for centuries, for generations, and now there are obstacles in their path. I mean, it was a long journey in the edit suite, but we're pretty happy with the results.
Yeah, and I think it shows as well, like the way that the area's been captured, the aerial shots, the it does look stunning. And I think it's the first time that I don't, when you watch shows based on the cold, I don't feel the cold and something like this. It feels like you can actually see the beauty in that time of year and with all the snow and the ice caps. Maybe that sort of time of year gets a bad rap because you always think about it being long, dark nights and it's been really cold and no one really wants to be outside.
Even that airlift that you brought up is like that's one of the scenes that we early in the feature version we edited, and we knew right away we had to like park it on the side and kind of really build up to that. It was such a after he got taken out of jail, and it was that intensity of being on the stretcher and like being like pull up, and we we found the moment to kind of like have that beat of silence, and really meditative state, and really being with that bear, and with him and that journey up north. And yeah, we had like a few scenes that we really built up to because we knew that they were so powerful, and that they needed to stay in the film, and they were a key part of the bear's journey. So that's when we really started to think about all that. But let me add one thing, what you just said before, that the this film would have been possible with the group and the support of everybody, because like as you said, it's like it seems like out there's an appetite and for like the true crime, and there's this like analytics that is being funded because it's what people wanna watch and they wanna tune out when they go home. But the fact that we had the freedom to like really try some things in the edit, and like and come up with a creative freedom to tell the story that we really needed to tell. The filmmakers and the editor, we felt the support and the creative freedom in a way to really, and it shows because like we 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 were like there was a beautiful team, that's what I want to say, of like collaborators that from the sound design to the music to the executives to the cinematographers, to the producers, to the additional everybody really brought something else to the journey and the conversations, and the importance of the stories, not only of these animals, but the Inuit people and the indigenous people in Canada, and we're all so proud of it.
Yeah, and I think you should be proud of it because it's not like you're doing stuff in an exploitative way. It's telling a story of like a human story and also a sort of geographical story and about nature. And having that creative freedom and patience to be able to do whatever the filmmakers needed to do and create such a buzz as well with it is a big thing. And I think it's also a special thing because I think it shows that it's people are interested, and if you let people go and capture and create stories, these kinds of stories, like people come and see it. If you think about somebody like David Attenborough, for example, he does a lot of documentaries regarding the like planet Earth, different animals, and it's like that always has a massive appetite for that, and it's always in the UK especially. It's like viewing, appointment viewing, so people like take out and sit the time and watch it and be amazed by what's captured and just the life of like animals and what's going on. I think what's really interesting on like this documentary is that you have deals a lot with not just like the wildlife, but it's also about people's memories, the trauma, and like the social realities of life, where we're told not to hunt the polar bears, but the indigenous community have been hunting the polar bears for centuries. So there's a lot that needs to be considered when you're editing. How do you approach all of these sort of subject matters, and juggle it in a way that is like true to their story, but you don't necessarily show a bias to one point of view?
I mean, by spending a lot of time in Canada, I feel like, I've been involved into a lot of stories and indigenous stories here, and I learned through the years that what I like about the filmmaking process as well is like is almost like presenting some of these ideas and not really coming up with the answers or like make the audience feel in a certain way. People go to Churchill, and this whole industry was created out there, around the polar bear sightings and the ecotourism. And people go there sometimes from all over the world. They pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get that beautiful picture of a polar bear. But a lot of them don't know what's behind all of it, and it's good to have some kind of context to tell these stories, to really appreciate the history of these communities and how they've been treated and relocated. And the bears, they have a natural cycle, and they've been doing it for generations. It's like they follow their path, they eat their seal and their beluga whales, and they go out the ice, and they come to the dens to have their cubs, and it's a natural cycle, but at the same time, in parallel, you have all these other industries, problems, you name it, that really interfere with that. But I feel like in the edit room, I try to listen. I try to listen to as much as I can to educate myself. We went over all the words and all the interviews with and the observation time with the conservation people that work in Churchill, with with all the tourists, and listen to their perspective. We talked to the local people in Churchill, that they've been there for a long time, and we wanted to tell this story from the Inuit perspective as well, and in Arviat, and how they've been dealing with the situation. And yeah, and we discovered that parallel between the animal and the human in the edit suite, by listening to Mike, by him going through his trauma, his personal trauma, and what happened to his family, and by drawing that parallel, and I feel like when he came to that conclusion, and by trusting the directors and opening, himself to all of us, we felt like we really found the film, and we really grab onto that to really have our north and really build around it.
It's interesting. It's interesting to hear your answer because you have it, as an editor, I don't think, if you were to ask yourself, whatever, 10, 20 years ago, when you're doing something like this, like as an editor, what you need to think about, like ethically, and how you're going to be cutting people's stories and how you want to present it. Because usually, I guess, like as a someone who might not be in the industry or know how editing works, you'd think it's very linear. Somebody's talking, cut it to this, cut it to that, bosh, put it in the can, we're done, and then move on to the next one. But I guess with something like this, it's such an emotional driving force that when you get to that final bit, it's a gut punch. And actually, I actually thought like, oh, must be so much anger towards polar bears. But then you get to the ending where narration does go to, well, I don't know what could be, what is worse. Is it us? Is it them? Like, we don't know what, with what's going on. And you kind of think, well, like, again, what an ending, because then it gives you time to think and makes you think. Even now, like, you watch the film and you're still sort of playing it in your mind, thinking, like, what is the correct answer? And that is such a, like, great way of sort of not playing that with the audience, but just giving the audience something more food for thought, so they don't just walk out and then forget about the film, but it kind of gestates in them a lot longer.
I love that aspect of it. To be honest with you, I want to people to get uncomfortable in the theater. I want people to think outside, the box. I don't want to have those answers being, right there spoon fed to the audience. I love films when, I want to watch them again. I keep thinking about it. I how can I help? I love that idea of like the fact that, a documentary can spark, all these thoughts and emotions into someone, and like and and learn and ask the questions and turn around and have some kind of like impact, even in your next action when you turn around and you do your next thing, or if you want to really get involved into some of these problematics, and help, and yeah, I just personally love that aspect of it, and I'm so thankful to Gabriela and Jack that the fact that they're so humble in their approach and they're so professional in everything that they do, and the collaboration process was beautiful because we crafted this thing together, and the fact that the Gibbons family is so thankful for this, and Mike's legacy will live forever. He can really make an impact in the new generation out there. Those are the people who really need the help. We were talking to one of the elders out there, and like he was really really thankful because they don't talk about these problems. They need mental health support. They need all these things, and if we can help by creating, 90 minutes of a documentary and spark conversation and maybe have some kind of center or like have like that legacy, and this if this is the vehicle to do that, yeah, I can sleep good at night, man. I'm very very happy. I mean, my job is done.
Yeah, and again, as I said, even at the beginning, but with different documentaries now showing like a different side to like real life, to what's happening now, to what's sort of important to what people sort of do and the impact of what's going on. And it's, again, as you said, mentioning is like you want to leave the audience to think, you don't want to spoon feed them. And again, those are the sort of best documentaries where you are left to think. You could discuss it with friends if they watched it, or even like get them onto it so that they can get that idea as well. And as you're saying as well, like if you can make a difference, then it's a big, big thing. And I think the film will find its audience and more people will go and watch it because it has such good buzz, but it's also because it is really, really good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you, but because it is in general.
No, we
Um,
really hope so. We really hope so, man, for sure.
what I'm curious to know about as well is you worked on the short documentary before coming on to doing this. How do you, as an editor, I guess you have more footage to work with compared to a short and a feature. But how do you go about thinking about the length of going from a short to then a 90-minute film and extending the stories? And then also, how do you go about sort of, I don't want to say pad it out, but collecting the correct sort of shots and building a story to the narration, sorry, but then also to the story the of Churchill itself.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it was a unique process because they've been going out to Churchill and Arviat for a few years before I met them. Aaron's tragedy happened in Arviat where they had to, Jack and Gabriela had to respectfully take a step back and let the community kind of grieve and that was the moment where I met them and we started talking about all the material that they had and the conversations were about the longer piece. We were talking about the feature version of it at that point, but it didn't feel right and we didn't have all the material and all the voices and it didn't feel the right time to tell that greater story. So we really wanted to do something because what has been captured at that point, it was very, very powerful. So the idea was to or the exercise was to create something almost like going through the flow of creating something and it was a very visual approach to the short film with no music, just sound design. We didn't want to put any voices in the film and we really concentrated ourselves in just the Churchill area. We didn't know how it was gonna go, and it really gravitated to a lot of people, and it did very well, and we were able to do the festival circuit and show it to a lot of people. Then the New Yorker kind of came on board halfway through, and we got that second push to awards, season, and that's when we were able to get a little more funding and partners to embark in the feature film. But at the same time, that short film now it was shown in Churchill and the community, and they were able to get invited back to Arvia to show that short film, and 200 people showed up to the community center, and it felt like the healing was in progress. So that's when the community of Arvia reopened the doors for our team, and I think that's when that all the new batch of material and more trips to capture more of the now the bear arriving. Luckily we were able to capture the bears that leave the Churchill area and arrive in Arvia, and we now have a lot of material that we can start building and constructing the narrative of the one bear's journey. And yeah, and again, with talking to all the community and Mike's interview and him able to open about his personal journey and story, it started to it was this, weeks and weeks and weeks of editing and really, really digging through and listening and trying things and have long assemblies and sharing some of the cuts with the community members or with colleagues, and really, going through the process without being rushed. Of course, you had the pressure to deliver a finished film, but yeah, I mean, last September, we knew we were to do one final interview with Mike, and we did. That's the one that you see in the film, and even though we had 3 or 4 before with him, and in Arvin and in Winnipeg, and yeah, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get to see the final film, but all his family did, and they were very grateful that we were able to do this for them.
Yeah, it's sad that he didn't get to see the final film, but again, with his family seeing it, he gets to live on, with so many people sort of hearing his story as well, which is probably a completely really weird, surreal feeling. but even like the journey that you guys have gone on with it, having that sort of stepping back and then coming back into it as well is incredible because again, it's probably very easy for what's it called for the town to sort of turn ahead and like sort of lock people out, especially with the events that's happened because it was again such it's like a horrible tragedy. But then how does how as a community how do you heal? How do you honor them? And I guess by doing something like that, and allowing you guys to come in to finish a story, um, probably makes a massive difference as well. And on top of that, like being getting having people like come into your lives with cameras and sort of watching your day to day is quite intrusive anyway. So to be able to go into that and have such an intimate feel and look into people's lives as well, yeah, I guess that's a testament to you guys as filmmakers, but then also as a community and agreeing to it as well.
Yeah, listen, man, and these communities have a lot of people through their lifetimes come in, do whatever they wanted to, not really stay true to them, and they leave. And yeah, someone was saying to us, it's like we really thought you were gonna do like kind of this like Disney polar bear movie. They had no idea because like they've been mistreated sometimes or not respected the way that I feel like our team did, and they don't give a lot of actually film permits out there. We were one. I don't want to say the only one, but maybe one of the very, 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 maybe a couple, and with reason. So again, it's an extra layer of responsibility that we all felt. We can't wait to go there and screen the film for the community. We're planning to do that hopefully very soon in the upcoming months. But we were just recently talking about what happens after, right? The whole impact and how we can just really make a change moving forward and in all those communities and listen, man, we I think we show some of the problems that the system has in both Churchill and Arviat, and if this sparks conversation in the Canadian government to change things or the way they approach conservation or tourism or you name it,
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, like having them say,
here we are to help,
yeah, exactly. And I think as well, if they say that, that's probably the biggest compliment is that we expected you to come in and do like a Disney polar bear film and it's all sort of hunky dory, but it's not. And that's sort of a big, powerful thing as well. And for them as well, it's probably a really nice surprise that somebody's come in and been very so respectful and careful and not taking the piss by doing something completely different. And as well,
yeah.
like it is probably a massive privilege to be able to film around there and capture all these footage and also people's lives.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got two more questions. The I just want to sort of talk about the editing software and what you use as an editor. Um, I'm guessing you use Premiere Pro.
Yeah, I use Adobe Premiere. An edit suite that I built, the all the media, and I have two systems attached to it, like matching media sent over to the directors and the producers, and we were able to like share sequences and have this dynamic edit and sharing assets constantly, with new media and Premiere, and I have like a control surface where I can access like the color and the scaling, and yeah, I have also like a cue cards board there. I took some of the cards out, but I put like another system there, and then I have a digital board. Um, yeah, broadcast monitor. I mean, very simple stuff, but I feel very comfortable. I have my workspace that I like to set up when I do this kind of long form documentaries, and yeah, it's such a like flexible interface that I can just customize it the way that I want. And yeah, I love it. I love it.
I guess a big plus is being able to work on segments and also then just show them straight away to the directors. I think what's I was going to ask as well is like because you've worked on the project for so many different years, did you find that using Adobe Premiere helped a lot because maybe the technology didn't change, but that being able to sort of work on it for so long that you had and like the takes might be in sort of different the raw footage might be in different sizes and if it's in like 4K or HD, did you find that was easy to sort of operate between in over the years?
Yeah, it's a very good point. We shot with like the years and yeah, different frame rates, resolutions, you name it. But I mean, and it will play back. That's the beauty of it. And yeah, I try to like as a rule, I try not to like upgrade many versions through in the middle of a project. But yeah, as 10 years of material and like we were trying to like every few months we do massive backups and try to like clean up a little bit of the project. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's been great. I mean, the directors also like it, so I will set them up that way, and it was a very dynamic, collaboration. People in other parts of the world as well, matching, sharing sequences and seeing what the other one's doing, or some presenting some ideas and collaborating that way as well.
Mm. And again, I guess you don't want to, as you said, it's good not to do a big update because if everything changes slightly or just doesn't then compute with what you've done, then you can be in really big trouble.
I know. No, because it's like it becomes such a massive thing, It's like it becomes huge, and you don't want to like troubleshoot all the time. But yeah, it's been usually pretty solid.
Yeah, well, that's good though. That's good, and I think when you hear about, because I hear quite a lot about Adobe and the different editing softwares and just how useful and how well the interface is and just how editors are working not just by themselves but within their editing team and department and then also with everybody else in terms of like directors and post-production. Yeah, probably does it helps knowing that you can start off with such a strong system and then being able to integrate other people into it and showing them the ropes as well.
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna start on the new Premiere version 26 on my new project, so experiment on that one.
Fingers crossed nothing bad happens. Touch wood. Just to wrap up this episode, what was your favorite sequence to work on the film?
I would say the airlift, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to craft. It really, I feel like, I mean, I love the we call it the trap and trank, like when it gets tranquilized and being put in jail. But after that, Halloween was beautiful to see. We spent a lot of time coming back and forth, as you mentioned earlier in the reveal in the film. But I feel like the airlift for me, some scenes are very hard, but some scenes there's such a when you look at raw footage, it makes such a big impact. His whole journey, and then as he gets like we call it the resurrection, and he gets resurrected after that. I really, really enjoy it, and every time, earlier in the edit when we were watching it, and we try with like with no music, with just sound design, we put some music cues, and yeah, it was a beautiful thing to craft. I really felt the connection with our main character. Yeah, that will stick with me forever, man.
No, that's a good, very solid choice regarding that scene. Um, I think it's very difficult to choose what would be the best, the best scene because there's so many, and everything just flows and plays out so beautifully. I think just those shots of just the polar bear and like marauding around is always is quite, I don't know, I just find it very sort of captivating, interesting, even though it's just a bear walking around. It just feels like I guess you're kind of thinking about like what it's doing, or you feel for it as well because it could be lost and you be separated from its family. And it's like makes you feel a bit sad as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Andres, thank you so much for your time today.
A pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time and watching film and talking about it with me.
No, thank you for speaking to me about it. Nuisance Bear it will be streaming soon, and hopefully everybody could go out and watch Andreas and his team's excellent work. Thank you again.
Thank you.
You take
Thank
care,
you
Red.
both
Bye
again.
bye. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.